Okay, so what you just saw, I would say, is the fastest build possible in Diablo 3, at least right now. And this build is perfect for farming rainbow goblins, where you have to cover an enormous amount of ground in as short a time as possible. And it also makes a joke of the sprinter achievement, where you have to complete the entire game in under 1 hour. I did this on my first attempt, or I would have if it didn't bug out, which I'll get to. And yeah, the speed is basically, the limit is not the build, it's more your brain. It's just how quickly you can comprehend what's happening on the screen in order to react to it. Just, I've dashed here, where do I go next, and just steering around corners and things like that. It's just ridiculous. It does take some practice. So the build, of course, revolves around the monk skill Dashing Strike, which I think is the best movement skill in the game. Obviously most classes have a movement skill, and the best movement skills are ones where you can teleport, and the monk skill is a teleport. So you go directly where you click, you can go through walls. As long as you can walk to that place, you'll be able to dash there. Kind of feel bad for wizards because they have a skill literally called teleport, but the monk skill is better because the animation is so quick. It's all over very, very fast. Literally every other skill on our bar is there just to buff Dashing Strike, to try and restore a resource, and then all of your gear, all of your stats are there just to try and reduce the cost of spending resource. So it's completely focused around dashing. When you're doing Rainbow Goblins, you should have enough damage to farm them on a Torment level. So you will get slightly more legendaries, Bloodshot Goblins may be worth stopping to kill. But for Sprinter, you're going to want to do it on normal mode, of course, and you're just going to obliterate everything. And you may bug out certain things, which I'll get to later, and I'll try and do an example for you in this video. So we'll start with the skills. The most important one, of course, is Dashing Strike, and we use the Radiance rune. The bonus of which is twofold. So one, it increases our attack speed when we use it, and more attack speed means that the animation of Dashing Strike happens quicker, meaning we can dash faster, so it's a win-win. And the Radiance rune also means it does fire damage, and because we wear a Syndicate, we can reduce the resource cost of that even more. Next up we have Blinding Flash with Replenishing Light. The Replenishing Light rune of Blinding Flash does restore spirit for enemies around you that were hit by it, but that's not really why we use it. We just use it as kind of an emergency spirit refill, because we have the Laws of Seth on our head. Next up we have Sweeping Wind with the Inner Storm rune. So when we have 3 stacks of this, we gain 8 spirit per second back, and we're always going to have 3 stacks. Next up we have Mantra of Healing with Circular Breathing. This is the only way that you can get spirit back with Mantra. It's not that much, but every little helps, and of course because we have a mantra, we can also use Chant of Resonance to get another 4 spirit back. After that we have Epiphany with the Insight rune. Don't use any other rune. This gives you 45 spirit per second. We need this. It's a huge buff. When this is down, the downtime is very small, but ideally you're going to have this up all the time because your Obsidian Ring is going to be refreshing the cooldown. And we also stack cooldown reduction everywhere. Mystic Ally, Air Ally. The ally will give you 8 spirit back per second, and you'll restore 200 spirit, unlike what the tooltip says, because we wear the Crew Disputes, which means we actually have 2 little allies here to help us. For the passives, Exalted Soul, no brainer, increases our maximum spirit. A larger spirit pool is harder to empty, and it gives us 4 spirit per second. Chant of Resonance, another 4 spirit per second because we have a mantra. Seize the Initiative, this gives us more attack speed. You're always going to have this buff up as you're zooming around. One thing you should be wary of with too much attack speed when it comes to Dashing Strike is, the animation is already very quick, and when you start getting more attack speed from Seize the Initiative or your Gogok gem, it's, if your latency to the server isn't that great, you will start rubber banding. Your dash, you'll stay in place, or the game's going to reset you back somewhere, and it completely messes up your head and messes up your speed. So give it a try, and if you end up rubber banding, I drop Seize the Initiative, something like Fleet-Footed, for those small moments where you will just be running on foot instead. Otherwise, definitely use Seize the Initiative. And the 4th passive, Beacon of Vitar, 20% cooldown, brilliant. This helps increase the effectiveness of our Zodiac Ring. So that's all of the skills. Paragons, so if you're doing this, in the next season, you're going to maybe want to do Sprinter as one of your conquests. Most important one here will be to fill out resource cost reduction. After that will be cooldown reduction, possibly attack speed to dash a bit quicker, and then you also want to increase your maximum spirit, that's most important. So onto the gear. Most importantly, we're using 3 pieces of the Raiment of 1,000 Storms set, and we're only interested in the first part of the 4-set bonus, which is that Dashing Strike spends 75 spirit, so now becomes a spender. And 75 spirit is very expensive, that's right up there with the most expensive monk skills, so everything on all of your gear is there to just reduce this cost and try to mitigate it. So on your gloves and on your shoulder, you want to have resource cost reduction and cooldown reduction. Pants doesn't matter because you can't get any useful stats there really. Boots, you want the crudest boots, these give you 2 mystic allies. For the belt, we want Kyoshiro's Soul. This is going to always keep your sweeping wind up. You get that 8 spirit per second. The chest, we have a Syndicate. Try and find one with the highest legendary roll that you can. So obviously this has a 30% roll, which is the highest possible. For the bracer, it doesn't really matter the bracer. I'm using a Nemesis bracer, but I don't stop to click pylons or shrines. You don't need to. I just use this because it has fire damage and crit on it. So it's not that important. Amulet, again, it's not important, just as long as you have cooldown reduction and resource cost reduction. Certain amulets like the Flavor of Time or the Overwhelming Desire, S of Johan, maybe you can nick one off your follower. These come with cooldown reduction already, so it's easy to get one with cooldown reduction, resource cost reduction, and a socket. For the rings, you must wear Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. We really need this legendary power, and you're going to be proccing it constantly because Dashing Strike is now a spender. This ring always comes again with cooldown and resource cost reduction, which is great. I find one with the highest rolls possible. The other ring doesn't matter, just as long as you have cooldown and resource cost reduction. And on your head, you want the Laws of Seth, which is a Spirit Stone, and these are the GG rolls. You want an increase to your maximum spirit, you want spirit regeneration, and you need a socket to put that topaz gem in for even more resource cost reduction. Now these can be quite rare, the Laws of Seth, and even rarer to find one with the right rolls. So if you can't find one thing you can do is wear Inna's Spirit Stone, which I think always rolls with maximum spirit, so it might be easy to find one with the correct rolls. And if you do that, you could drop the Laws of the crudest boots, and then wear Inna's boots. So you have Inna's Spirit Stone, Inna's boots, which will give you the 2-piece bonus, which will increase the effectiveness of your mystic ally by 100%. So instead of 2 mystic allies, each giving you 4 spirit per second, you'll have 1 mystic ally giving you 8. So you get more or less the same effect, but then it's not used having Blind and Flash, I don't think. Maybe put a generator. Your weapons, again talking about max spirit and regeneration, I would say 2 fist weapons are ideal, because being monk specific, you can again have maximum spirit and regen. So these are the GG rolls here. Cooldown, resource, regeneration, maximum spirit. Brilliant. Crystal Fist is a dashing strike focused weapon, but we don't need the damage reduction, it's just for the rolls. However, I would say, if you can, try and have one of your fist weapons be a flesh rake, because you're always going to have this legendary power stacked up, and you're going to do a few 100% more damage with every single dash, which helps, when you kill a goblin, it might let you go up, up to Torment or higher. The damage of this build isn't fantastic, but it's just completely for speed, and it works perfectly with this. Again, cooldown reduction, resource cost reduction, maximum spirit, and regen would be ideal. I don't have the regen on this one. Off to the cube. The weapon slot, I use Envious Blade, which just guarantees that I get critical hits against everything. There are a few other options you can use here. I would say if you don't have a flesh rake, you probably should use one in the cube, just for that bit of a damage boost. Another option is Flying Dragon, but it just makes an already ridiculous build even more ridiculous, and you need to be some kind of savant to be able to keep up with the build. It's just so quick. So if you want to laugh, you could try it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Another one is Burst of Wrath, which is quite interesting, which you also get from bounties. Killing enemies and destroying objects has a chance to grant 20% of your maximum primary resource. There does seem to be not so much an internal cooldown, but it becomes less effective over time the more you proc it. I've seen Blizzards put some kind of extended cooldown on it, and I'd say it's not that important because if you are geared correctly, you don't need the regeneration from this. You're perfectly fine, so yeah, I wouldn't bother. You could also potentially use a furnace, because goblins do count as elites. But again, you shouldn't have that much problem killing goblins. You may need to, get the hang of it first, sort of aiming your dashing strike in place when you come across a goblin to actually kill it. But it's quite easy to pick up. In the armor slot, we're going to use Pride's Fall. So after not taking damage for 5 seconds, you're going to get 30% resource cost reduction. And in order to not take damage, we are going to use the Molten Wildebeest Gizzard gem, which will give us an absorb shield, so that our HP is not affected. So taking damage on the shield doesn't count as damage that will disable the Pride's Fall effect. If you do have good stats everywhere else, you can also use Leoric's Crown and not worry about that. It's still perfectly playable, so it's up to you which one you want to use. And for the ring slot, we have Ring of Royal Grandeur. You have to use this because we're only wearing 3 pieces of the raiment set, but we need that 4-piece bonus. And so onto the playstyle. So if you know how to numlock skills, but out the scope of this video, but Google Diablo 3 numlock, you can find out how to do it. You should numlock your Epiphany and your Mystic Ally. So these two are constantly going to be refilling your spirit pool. I should also say, ideally your stats, you should be able to touch nearly 400 spirit, which is quite huge. And you should also be near 60% cooldown, and your resource cost reduction should be over 60% easily. As you can see here, I have just shy of 90%, 70%, 90 would be nice. And on top of that, you also have the 30% from the Syndicate, which isn't counted in that. Which means that Dashing Strike is incredibly cheap to cast, and you can just spam it to your heart's content. You can hold the button down if you have the right stats and regeneration. So I'll go to Southern Highlands, I'll numlock my Epiphany and my Air Ally, and let's say that I want to go to Leoric's Manor, which is through the Southern and Northern Highlands, up through both levels, and also the bridge somewhere over here, and we're there. Congratulations, you broke the game. So it can take some practice when you're trying to sort of aim it. You occasionally get stuck like that, or the map designers love to place little outcrops and stuff you might get stuck on. You have to kind of alter your course to get around it and things like that. You'll get used to this kind of stuff. It happens more in caves. You'll notice a sort of friction against the walls maybe, so kind of shaking your mouse around in the general direction you want to go while dashing will get you there. And yeah, practice makes perfect. Obviously maps like the channels in Act 2, or maps in the high heavens, which I'll go to actually, with the big long straight sections, these are beautiful. You can just hold it down and go across. This is easily the fastest build in the game. You're going to easily leave a chicken behind, a Witch Doctor, Angry Chicken, or a Demon Hunter using those Denetta's crossbows. One thing I said about bugs is, because you go so quick, and because you're going to be killing everything normally in one hit, especially on normal mode, you can sometimes glitch out certain scripted events, especially boss fights. This is what made me fail a sprinter run, so if I find Diablo wherever he's hiding, and here we go. I just dashed up straight into him and he just froze in place. I'd obviously broken his AI script somehow, I don't know if I'll be able to do it here. Dashed up, here's Diablo, and he just got... oh. Okay, there we go. But yeah, this is what happened on my sprinter run, so you have to be careful of this. If this was a sprinter run now, I've just completely messed it up. So you may want to just let your Sweeping Wind kill bosses, or your Mystic Allies and your follower, your Templar, they will do it. Speaking of which, your Templar of course should use Inspire to give you 10% more spirit. And I realised I didn't go over the gems, so most importantly we have Gogok of Swiftness. This is always going to be stacked up when you're zooming around. 50% cooldown, lovely, increases the effect of your Obsidian Ring. And the attack speed is going to also increase your Dashing Strike attack speed, but be careful of him too much. The dodge chance kind of works against you, because even with Epiphany up, you're still going to flinch when you're trying to teleport out if you dodge, so you don't need to level the Gogok too high, just get it to 25. Bane of the Trapped is a nice damage boost. I mean, you should be playing on a level where you're going to one-hit everything anyway, so it's not that important. But if you are using Pride's 4, definitely your second gem must be the Molten Wildebeest Gizzard, because you want to keep that buff up. Without it, you are just going to take random damage, like a ranged mob or an elite ground effect stuff, or something, you know, and yeah, you're going to be hurting without that 30% RCR, the biggest RCR boost you get outside of Syndicate. And that's pretty much it. Good luck on your sprint to run, I'll be doing this again next season. And good luck finding those remover goblins.